One of the craziest games in recent memory. Canucks score 6 unanswered goals in a 6-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're breaking it down. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. It is Rink Wide Vancouver. It's brought to you in part by Bet365. I'm Jeff. He is Tyson Cole. And sometimes all you can do is laugh.
What
I
an
mean,
effort.
come on. After that first period, the way the Canucks barely showed up in the first period, if you had told me that they were going to win this hockey game and do it scoring 6 unanswered goals. It almost looked like they were running it up on the Bolts by the end of this thing. It goes into the books as a 6-2 final. The Canucks with all kinds of deflection goals. They'll take them any way they can get them, and they turn the tables on Tampa Bay after a one-sided first period. The Canucks were the better team, and yes, Tampa had played the night before, but still, to think that it was going to wind up the way that it did. And it is nice having the captain back. I think that much is clear. Quinn Hughes, who had 3 assists in the game against Winnipeg the other night and then couldn't play in the road trip opener against Carolina. He was back, and he was back with a vengeance. Quinn Hughes with a season-high 4 points. So he has 7 assists in his last 2 games. And for a change, we're going to praise the penalty kill. And we're going to talk about the fact that the Canucks won this special teams battle handily and end up winning the hockey game.
Is it the first time ever they won the special teams battle this year?
Feels like it.
It sure seems so. I mean, you would have figured watching just the first period that it was Tampa that was on, that it was Vancouver that was on a back-to-back, and Tampa had well rested. What was it, 13-1 in the first period? The shot attempts weren't even impressive for Vancouver. So the way that they were able to, I mean, the second period didn't look great either, but the way that they, you hear it all the time with this team, resilient, and they came out in the third period and they got, 4 or 5 goals in the third period?
They scored 5 times, count them. Jeez. 5 times in the third, 6 on the night. Again, 6 unanswered goals. It was 2-0 for Tampa at one point, and it can be a game of inches. I mean, it's sports. It's why we love sports. It's unpredictable. You never know how it's going to go. But remember that the Bolts hit the post early in the third period at 2-1, and then Kucherov had the backdoor play, and he somehow missed he had half the net to shoot at, misfired, doesn't go in, and that's when the Canucks really started this comeback. And I track back to the power play because the Canucks ended up going 2 for 3 with the man advantage in this hockey game. That's a stat that stands out. More than that, they killed off a pair of Tampa power plays, and we know the storyline with this Canucks penalty kill. And these were high-leverage power plays in the second period when Tampa had an opportunity to really pull away from the Vancouver Canucks, who were still looking like they were spinning their wheels and trying to find their hockey game. Whatever the case, penalty killers came through, got the job done, and so credit to the guys. We haven't said that an awful lot, and for good reason, because this penalty kill has sunk the Vancouver Canucks, but those were big kills in the second period and allowed the Canucks to start this furious comeback. They win the hockey game with just 18 shots on goal. So if you're doing math here, 2 games on the road trip now, a grand total of 35 shots. They had 17 in Carolina in the overtime loss, and 18 in this one, added up 35. That's not a lot of shots, but
Carolina had more themselves.
Yes, exactly. It's a dangerous way to play. Let's leave it at that, especially as the Canucks now quickly turn around, head south to Sunrise, and have to do this again on Monday afternoon against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs, who are going to be the rested team, and it's the Canucks. And we'll see what they've got left in the tank. But they've picked up 3 of a possible 4 against all odds. If you just watch these games and the way they were played, I mean, there's 2 ways to cut it. There's the process, and that hasn't been great. But it is a bottom-line business, and hard to argue with 3 out of a possible 4 points this far from home on a quick road trip.
Yeah, you definitely like the outcome, but you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. Like, if you watch the first period, like, it was brutal, and like wins like these and the goals, they were all luck. Like, a lot of them were tip-ins. Like, you can't be sure you're going to get those all the time. And I don't know. I'm just worried that that's going to give a little bit more hope than what the team actually is.
This tweet from Dan Murphy on the ground in Tampa. David Kampf was in the high-five celebration line outside the Canucks locker room when the team was coming off the ice, and somebody yelled, "Hey, new guy." We'll talk more about David Kampf and where this goes for him. We expect that he's going to play in Florida, but Adam Foote's going to have decisions to make here about who comes out, because there were a lot of guys that were pulling on the rope and contributing in various ways. I mean, look at the goal scorers in this hockey game. Mackenzie MacEachern gets his first NHL goal in a bunch of years. He ended up with an assist as well. Linus Karlsson on his birthday. Happy birthday to him. He scores his second of the season. Drew O'Connor had gone a couple of games without scoring, but we know that he's been on a nice run of form here. He gets his fifth of the year. Jake DeBrusk, November Jake, is a force to be reckoned with. That's 5 goals now in the month of November. Another greasy power play goal, but that one got the comeback started for the Vancouver Canucks. It was 2-0. Tampa was threatening to run away and hide, and there's Jake DeBrusk parked in front. Nice work up high by Elias Pettersson to beat Yanni Gourde, create some separation, gets the shot through. And, Quinn Hughes picked up an assist there, and that was a theme throughout as the Canucks went about their business. So they reached the 20-game mark. Yeah, they've already played 20 games in this compressed schedule. 20 games in, 9-9-2. So the definition of NHL 500, they're 6-4-1 on the road. They've played 11 of their 20 games away from home and have more than held their head above water there. And now on this road trip, 1-0-1. As they head for Sunrise in a date with the Florida Panthers. Want to hear from you, your thoughts on this one, your thoughts on the Canucks at the 20-game mark, you name it, whatever. Anything goes here on Rink Wide. You know how the drill goes, so hit us up with a super chat. Our charity partner again this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. We're going to get to the stat that stands out. We are going to get to our line of the night a little bit later on. We'll take a closer look at David Kampf and his role in this and a little preview of what's to come tomorrow. But because the Canucks ended up racking up 6 goals and they spread the scoring around, want to get to the 3 stars of this hockey game right away. And then we'll dig back into some of the talking points that we saw unfold before our eyes here. But the 3 stars, as always on Rink Wide, a presentation of Greta Bar. Great place to catch all the games. It's also a great place to gather if you're looking for a spot for a corporate group, a sports team, or a club, or a social occasion, whatever. Greta would love to host you, and they do it all the time for all sorts of events. And it is a great place to gather, to watch sports, all kinds of big screens for all the action, the street food menu. They've got game day drink specials, the arcade games there around the bar as well. Check it out. Greta Bar, the place to be. 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. The 3 stars selected in the building: Quinn Hughes, Mackenzie MacEachern, and Jake Guentzel probably was the best of the Tampa bunch. He gets his 8th of the year because he always scores against the Canucks.
He's a Canuck killer.
13 goals in 14 career games now against the Vancouver Canucks. He's taken over from Steven Stamkos, who used to always score whenever the Canucks faced the Bolts. Kucherov had their other one late in the first period. And then after that, on the score sheet at the very least, it was all Canucks. And there's, smiling Quinn Hughes. We haven't seen enough of that this year. Back in the lineup, 4 assists, 4 shots on goal. He's up to 17 points in 20 games for a guy that's missed some time here. And you have a couple of big games, as he so often does. All of a sudden, you get those point totals back on track. So that's looking more like the Quinn Hughes that we know. And he was questionable. He was a game-time decision. In fact, the reports out of Tampa, he had to make sure they felt okay through warm-up before they were absolutely ready to go. And he was there and showed up in a big way. Mackenzie MacEachern, if you don't know what he looks like without his helmet on, there you go. Goal and an assist for him. And interesting timing, too, because David Kampf needs a roster spot. The Canucks have to make a move here. They can't just plug David Kampf in. Somebody's got to come off the roster. Mackenzie MacEachern in over Arshdeep Bains the other night, stays in over Arshdeep Bains, and looked in the third period like a guy that wants to stay here in the big leagues. So second star. And how do the Canucks even get out of the first period without Kevin Lankinen? Earned him a point the other night in Carolina when they were outplayed badly and outshot by 1,000. And here, same thing. 13-1 were the shots, and that barely tells the story. Like 13-1 tells a story. the high dangers in the first period were 11-0. So the shots they were getting were quality. And Kevin Lankinen was there to make some key stops. He made a save on Gensel on the doorstep on a Tampa power play at 2-1 in the second period. If he scores there, maybe this game gets away from the Vancouver Canucks. But Lankinen made that stop, and a bunch of others gave up 2 and then shut the door. And so he makes 28 saves on the night. He's been busy, and he was good in this one. There's your 3 stars. A clean sweep of Vancouver Canucks here on Rink Wide Vancouver.
Yeah, I liked Hughes' first period wasn't
Nobody's
noticeable at
first
all.
period.
But yeah,
He played half of it, which that's kind of crazy too.
Yeah.
When you think, okay, he's back, you should get a boost from the return. It's that one-sided for Tampa, and Quinn Hughes is on the ice for he played 9 minutes and 27 seconds, like half the first period, and Tampa was still able to tilt the ice
dominate
that way. But you wonder, he's the captain, he's the leader. Was something said after one period? Was something said after 2? I mean, we always talk about that in the media. You know, what was said after the but something changed. I mean, clearly they realized that first period was unserious, really fairly unprofessional, quite frankly. It's the NHL. Like, Tampa's without a bunch of players as well. And you're getting your captain back should be this, like, yeah, we got Quinn in the lineup, look out. And it was anything but. But
that's what was most concerning. Vancouver's obviously dealt with their injuries, but Tampa's dealing with that right now. Hedman's out, Cirelli's out, Paul's out, McDonough's out, and Tampa's on the second half of back-to-back, and you get caved in like that for the whole period. That was tough. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Lankinen. He's the 3rd star tonight for us here at Rink Wide. I think Lankinen, it wasn't a good start to the season for him by any means. His numbers weren't great. He wasn't allowing the best of goals, but I found that once he finds consistency like he's getting right now, he plays a lot better.
To a point, I would agree with you, but everybody's got their limit. And we saw after the Four Nations break last year that they just leaned on him way too much. And so this is a fascinating $1 million question about 3rd game in 4 nights, all on the road here, back-to-back. You've got 3 of 4 points. Like, you've guaranteed that you're going to come home off this trip at 500, at least on the 3-game trip. Do you have a game to play with? Like, can you turn to Jiri Patera? Lankinen couldn't play all the games on this trip if he didn't play the first 2. Yeah. So he is an option. I worry. I mean, what happens if he gets injured, if they overplay him and he runs? I kind of feel like they got to turn to Patera and just take their chances, and maybe he surprises us. Florida's not the powerhouse that it's been the last bunch of years. Lost at home to this Tampa team on Saturday afternoon. So we'll see. Adam Foote's not going to declare that today or tonight, but he's going to have a decision to make here. I'm sure Lankinen will put his hand up and say, hey, I'm ready to go. I mean, he said it the other night. Last time he played back-to-back last week, and he was like, I wouldn't mind playing a 3rd game. Yeah, but there's a bigger picture at play here, and it is your health, especially when there's no sign of Thatcher Demko for any time soon here. So you're right. The start of the season, like, if you go back in the games, like I think of the 5-1 loss to Pittsburgh, the loss at home to St. Louis, his first start of the season, he gave up 5. He's given up too many goals too often, but the goals themselves haven't been terrible. Like, it's hard to point to goals and say, that was his fault. A really weak goal, or you had to have it. There have been a few along the lines, but it's just in volume, there have been a few too many. So, to go back to where the Canucks have been here, I mean, this is just their 2nd regulation win in 14 hockey games. They've been finding ways to pick up points beyond regulation. They beat Columbus last weekend at home. That was a regulation win, but regulation wins have been hard to come by. This is just their 5th of the season. The other part there is that this is a team that, we talk about, they've been missing so many players, but they got the captain back. But then Connor Garland leaves this hockey game, and we'll see if there's an update there. It just feels like they can't get through a night without somebody dropping out and dropping off here. Yep. And so we'll wait to hear from Adam Foote and see if there is any update on Connor Garland. He only played 4 minutes and 21 seconds. He got in the early scrap with Darren Radish. Neither one of them a noted fighter, but clearly trying to settle some sort of argument out there really early in the hockey game. I thought Radish got in a late shot after the linesman got in there, and I wonder if we'll find out. I mean, Garland stayed in the game for a little while. Dreadful turnover that led to the 2-0 Tampa goal. And it was interesting to note, and we talked about it here in studio as we watched this game, Garland turns the puck over, Tampa cashes in, then the Canucks get a power play right away. No sign of Connor Garland. And at the time we thought, is that a coach's decision? Is that like coach just saying, you know, even though you're one of the best players, so you can't turn the puck over the way you did, but then Garland didn't play again. So I wonder if actually that was injury related at that point. Whatever the case, fingers crossed for Connor Garland, who's already missed 3 games earlier this season after that hard hit by Sam Carrick. And you would have thought, okay, losing Garland's going to hurt this team's chances as they try to claw their way back. So credit to the guys that stayed in uniform and somehow, some way, found a way to skate away with a 6-2 victory.
Yeah, it was. I don't know how this team just continues to get injured like the way they do. It seems like it's a very busy night for every one of their training staff, coaching staff. Like there's always something. But yeah, the way that they fought back was great. Who was getting up on the top line? Was it MacEachern?
Well, yeah, at times. I mean, they were rolling people through. It's another night where Lucas Reichel barely plays, and you wonder about sort of big picture his future with David Kampf coming in. Is it as simple as they slide him to the wing and hope that there's more there as a winger, or is he a guy that's going to lose his spot in the lineup altogether? Again, a roster move coming at some point in the next probably 12 to 15 hours, and I don't think they have to make it until tomorrow, but Archie Baines right now on the outside looking in, you wonder if they're going to put him on waivers and see what happens there.
Is that what you think? Because I think they probably send down Mancini. You know, Willander's not playing terribly.
Yeah, I mean,
looks like
with these new rules, obviously if you send a guy down, it's not as simple as just sending him down. He's got to play a game, but you're right. Mancini's been activated for 2 games now. He does need some game action.
Yeah.
So rather than expose a player to waivers, that might be the simple solution. Abbotsford's out on a road trip. They're in Coachella Valley tonight, got absolutely smoked in San Diego. They would take any and all reinforcements that they could get from the big league team. So, yeah, you might be right there in the simple solution, and that sort of just kicks this decision down the road a little bit as far as what to do with the extra bodies up front now that David Kampf looks like he's going to be an option for the Canucks starting
but also
on Monday.
Garland. Like if he's,
well, you're right. That's true.
So Baines would slot in, right? So
no, you're right. It's never dull. Never dull on the injury front with this hockey club, and you're right. We'll wait to see. Michael in the chat says, more tips than an Interact machine. There were a lot of deflections in this hockey game. Kiefer Sherwood's goal was tipped along the ice, but it was a deflection. Then Linus Karlsson, the backhander by MacEachern, and Karlsson there kind of swats at it. Was able to get a stick on it. They gave it to MacEachern for the longest time, but they have changed it now. And the way that Karlsson celebrated, I don't think he was just celebrating his 26th birthday. I think he knows. Goal scorers generally know when they got a piece of it, and they're not going to try and rip off a teammate. So I don't think he was trying to sell anything there. And then Mackenzie MacEachern with the deflection of the Phil Hronek shot. And so get to the net. Good things happen. We've seen Drew O'Connor score in and around the net. And obviously, Jake DeBrusk, most of his goals come from within 5 feet of the net, and this one did as well. All right, let's get to the stat that stands out. Stat that stands out is delivered by Uber Eats, and every time the Canucks play at home, you can get a buy one, get one 6-piece chicken McNuggets from McDonald's in Vancouver only on Uber Eats. And from game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip before, during, or after the game, Uber Eats assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Hashtag crave the stats. Lots of stats to choose from. But today was the first time that the Canucks have scored 5 goals in a period. Now, they scored 4 in the third period on opening night. Remember opening night against the Calgary Flames?
Yep.
Kind of pulled away from the Flames. Philip Hedl had a pair. Remember Philip Hedl? Chicago, though, scored 5 on the Canucks last week when it was scoreless through 40 minutes, and then the Blackhawks exploded for 5 in the third. So the Canucks have given up 5 in the third period, but this is the first time that they have scored 5 in a period, and the first time all season that they have reached 6 goals in a hockey game. So lots of 3s and 4-goal nights, a couple of 5s along the way, but this is the first time at the 20-game mark that the Vancouver Canucks put 6 pucks in the opponent net, and they win it by a score of 6-2. You know, what surprises me, and this sort of follows that stat that stands out, we have done shows here. We've talked about third periods have been part of the downfall for the Vancouver Canucks. At one point, not that long ago, they had given up 25 of their 50 goals total had come in the third period alone. So half the goals that they had given up had come in the final frame. On the other shoe, or the shoe on the other foot here, prior to this game, the Canucks had only scored 17 third period goals in 19 games. So less than a goal per third period. And somehow, some way, again, just explode for 5 in the third, 6 on the night. Marcus Pettersson getting in on the fun as well. Just the third goal from a defenseman all season for the Canucks, and 2 of them now have come in empty nets. Quinn Hughes' only goal. Like, Quinn's racking up assists at a Quinn Hughes rate. He's still stuck on 1 goal. Remember the talk about 20-goal seasons for Quinn Hughes? He has 1 goal. It was an empty netter in Dallas.
Yeah.
So he's still shooting the puck a bunch. I think he led the Canucks in shots, if I'm not mistaken here. 4 shots on goal, 7 attempts. Didn't need goals from Quinn Hughes. He had a hand in 4 of them, so he certainly factored in. He was our first star. But, yeah, just interesting to note that at the 20-game mark, the Canucks have 3 goals from defensemen. Marcus Pettersson into an empty net, Quinn Hughes into an empty net, and Tyler Myers. Remember that greasy goal we did that game in Washington off the scramble there, and he found the loose puck. And that's the only time that a Canuck defenseman has beaten a goaltender for a goal 20 games into the season.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, if you just look at Hughes' career game logs, it might look like we're going more to, what it was for the first 4 years of his career. He had single-digit goals, and kind of looks like we're trending that way. Last 2 seasons, he had 17, 16, but yeah, and I don't know, his shot volume's up, because I could understand why he wasn't getting all those goals earlier in his career, because he wasn't shooting as much as he is today. But yeah, it's odd. I'm not sure, because the volume hasn't slowed down.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's not for a lack of trying and a lack of shooting, and we know that over the last couple of years he's worked on his shot. And look, this is not carving Quinn Hughes in any way. It's just a surprising fact that at the 20-game mark, and I know he missed 5 of them, but still, just the 1 goal for him. And through all of that, they're a 9-9-2 hockey club. This team is finding ways to tread water. I haven't heard from Adam Foote. If we get a chance, we'll bring you the coach's comments. Something tells me that he'll use the word resilient, because he does just about every game. Win or loss. And at 2-0, they had to be resilient. Like, he's not necessarily wrong there, but I do think he overuses that word. And I'll be curious, too, because there's the adage in sports about, hey, don't critique a victory. But, again, to go back to that first period, and I don't want to harp on the first period, but on a lot of nights, first periods like this will do a team in. Like, there's no coming back from being outshot 13-1, and it goes a lot deeper than that. Like, we did this the other night, where it was basically our segment. We were like, all right, let's get under the hood and look at this game by the numbers. Tyson, the first period, the shots were 13-1.
Yep.
The attempts were 27-6. The scoring chances were 14-2, and the high dangers were 11-0. And somehow, some way, the Vancouver Canucks won this hockey game.
Kevin Lankinen. I mean, like I was saying, if you get him more consistently into games, he finds his rhythm, and he even spoke on that. And, I mean, 1 goal against on 12 high danger chances in that first period, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it's funny, because I said at 1-0, at the end of the first period, I said, Canucks are going to tie this game. I said that to you. And then when they fell behind 2-0, I said, I'm doubling down on this. Canucks are going to tie this game. Now they got to score twice, but they're going to do it somehow. The DeBrusk power play goal was huge, because even though they were better to start the second period, they're in a 2-0 hole, and they didn't have much going for them. And for them to score on their first power play of the night, give them a little bit of life, a little bit of belief, I suppose. And the other part that we haven't even mentioned here is that they avoided Andrei Vasilevsky. Like, that's a massive break. They get a backup in Jonas Johansson, whose numbers aren't bad, but he hasn't played very much. But, like, I'm such a believer. I've hosted post-game shows in this market for 20-some years. Like, the number of times that I've said, you get a backup that hasn't played much, test him. Like, put pucks on net. And so you see what happened in the third period. It took the Canucks longer than it ought to, but why didn't they? Why couldn't they? I mean, part of it is they couldn't get the puck, I suppose. But test this guy, force him to make some stops. He's a backup and not a starter for a reason, and ultimately that showed through in the third period. They end up scoring 5 times on 11 shots in the third period. Mm-hmm. So, we talk about Lankinen, but there are 2 goaltenders in this hockey game. It was a break that, now you could say, hey, it was a break for Tampa that they didn't have to face Thatcher Demko, but Demko wasn't an option. Vasilevsky was, but was probably never going to play the back-to-backs here on the weekend. And so whatever the case, Canucks took advantage. Were able to get those screens and tips that we talked about, and they do hang 5 on Johansson. The empty netter doesn't go on his book or his record, but certainly for as much as Lankinen held down the fort and gave the Canucks a chance to win, I think Tampa will look at the goaltending and think 5 goals on 17 shots is not a formula that you want to repeat very often.
No bueno. The Canucks have faced a lot of backup goalies this season. From just recent memory, Jakub Dobeš. There was one more I just had.
Now, Dobeš was 4-0 with a ridiculous, you're right. I'm trying to think.
Jonathan Quick, Joel Hofer, Charlie Lindgren.
Yep.
And that's just in October. If you look in December or November, was it Philip Gustafsson or Wallstedt? I can't remember.
They saw Gustafsson.
Gustafsson. Okay, never mind then. But yeah, and they got Blackwood, who is he's the starter, but it was only his second game back.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how the goaltending shakes out there in Colorado. But you're right. Colorado played the night before in Edmonton. Yeah. They went with Wedgwood. That told you all you needed to know about where they think their goaltending is. So and that happens. And the Canucks will have to throw. They may throw Yuri Patera at the Florida Panthers in this compressed schedule. I think teams are going to have to go 3 deep in their goaltending ranks. Mm-hmm. Some have gone deeper than that already. Whatever the case. On this night, Kevin Lankinen delivered, and Tampa didn't get the net mending that it wanted or needed. I am fascinated, though, and we won't have to wait long, and I know that you won't be in with me tomorrow, or if it's going to be back. But can the process, can it look like do the Canucks? I'm going to be fascinated to hear from Adam Foote, because I want to believe that they know how bad that first period was.
Yeah.
But at the end of the night, they look and we scored 6, we won 6-2. Mm-hmm. Was it that bad? Yeah, it was. And so they haven't played particularly well on this road trip, and yet have found ways to grind out 3 points. And so I guess on that level, you have to salute them. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we keep saying that, really one step forward, one step back, and treading a bunch of water. You can't start a win streak without the first one, so maybe that's what this is. We'll see.
Well, they haven't started a win streak in a long time, but that's what I was saying earlier. I don't want all these goals that they scored, putting up 6 in the resilient third period to overshadow what this game was in the first and second period. You got dominated, and then you played one good game or one good period of hockey, and you won the game. There's clearly still flaws on this roster that you can't be putting out that level of production and that effort on the ice in the first 2 periods and expect to walk away with a win every single time.
They won this hockey game despite giving up 18 high danger chances to just 4 of their own. It makes no sense whatsoever, and sometimes that happens. That is hockey, that is sport. But on an individual level, when you look at some of the performances here, Connor Garland was having a miserable night before he left. He played 4 minutes, and the shot attempts were 9-1 for Tampa. Marcus Pettersson gets absolutely buried, and good for him. He scores the empty netter, but an individual Corsi is 16%. The shots were 9-2 in Tampa's favor at 5-on-5. We've been charting the progress of Tom Willander. Shots were 6-0 Tampa with him on the ice, so the Canucks didn't register a single shot on goal. It goes on and on. When the numbers are as crooked as we laid out a little bit earlier, hard to find anybody that really excelled in terms of puck possession. It is kind of funny that Lucas Reichel was the Corsi king for the Vancouver Canucks, and he barely played, but when he did play, controlled 62.5% of all the shot attempts, and actually the Canucks outshot Tampa 4-3 at even strength. And Reichel's on the ice for 2 goals and none against. So given the way that a lot of his nights in Canuck colors have gone, I suppose that represents some success, but I do wonder if his spot in the lineup here is in jeopardy now that you're inserting a bona fide bottom 6 forward or center in David Kampf. A couple other things. Nick in the chat saying that Dustin Wolf's the only starter that the Canucks had beaten in regulation time. And remember, Wolf had played the night before in Edmonton. They had back-to-back there. We should also mention that Jonathan Lekkerimäki has scored in his return to the Abbotsford lineup. Abbotsford with a lead down in Coachella Valley. That's a story in and of itself.
Let's not talk about last night.
After getting skunked 7-zip, nice to see them on the board and good to see Jonathan Lekkerimäki. I think he had 6 shots on goal in the loss last night. And so he's there to regain that touch, and we'll see if he becomes an option for a recall here or if they want him to cook down in the minors for a little bit. All right, a bunch of other things that I want to get to here. This segment of Rink Wide is presented by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid and its no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive up to 72 kilometers on battery alone, and that's enough to get you from downtown to the rink to the grocery store and then home to recharge. It seamlessly transitions from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. No sacrifices when it comes to horsepower or style with its sleek and low, wide exterior, sophisticated interior, and it's loaded with tech that is actually easy to use. And right now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down, and that includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. It does sort of feel like it gets its own segment here, but what do we make of Elias Pettersson's night for the Vancouver Canucks? Finishes with a couple of assists. Primary assist, actually a pair of primary assists. One was on the empty netter, but 2-point night, another multi-point night. So the points are slowly starting to come along here for Elias Pettersson. But like his team, there wasn't a whole lot there in the first period. It did get better as the night went along.
Yeah, I don't have much to take away from Pettersson's game in this one. I thought he was fine. He wasn't stellar by any means. I did really enjoy that move at the top of the circle. That was like a vintage PD kind of move, confident with the puck on your stick, and then he rips it at the high slot, and Jake gets the rebound. So I like that part of his game. But other than that, I got to be honest with you, Jeff, I didn't notice too much of him.
Yeah, he was on the ice for the first 2 goals by Tampa, and of course was beaten by Aho on the overtime winner the other night. So, for all the praise of digging in defensively against some of these top players, the matchup, Nathan McKinnon ran wild when Colorado was in town. Again, this is not an effort thing, but you do wonder, now that you've got David Kampf, who, again, is no savior for the Vancouver Canucks. I want to be clear about this. 30-year-old veteran guy that couldn't crack the Toronto Maple Leafs, clearly wasn't Craig Berube's guy, but has done more winning than losing in the faceoff circle in his NHL career, has decent size. Like, I do wonder, how are they going to deploy him? Will they be able to work matchups? This guy's trying to learn his new teammates. I'm sure it's been a whirlwind 48 hours for him between having the contract terminated and trying to figure out what was next and then signing with the Canucks and meeting the team. So he's there on the ground in Tampa. He'll fly with them to Sunrise, and we expect that he is going to play against the Florida Panthers, make his debut there. So can he alleviate some of the defensive burden, even a little bit, for Elias Pettersson and try and free up Petey to do a little bit more offensively? I guess that's the hope, but Kampf has to be able to hold up his end of the bargain here, and played 4 games in the minors, but hasn't played in the NHL this season too. So jumping in midstream, trying to figure out systems and all that kind of stuff, like, it may not be easy. It hasn't been easy for Lukas Reichel, obviously, but you do hope that it goes a little better for Kampf than it has for Reichel, who's now played 12 games and has just a single point.
Yeah, it hasn't been great for Reichel, but Kampf, he's going to alleviate so much for Pettersson, especially in the defensive zone. And, it's kind of, a lot of people will, dog on Pettersson, making 11.6. You're not scoring as many goals or points as you should be when you're making that much money. But, is tasked with so much defensive responsibility that it is taking away his time in the offensive zone. Yes, would you like him to turn defense into offense? Of course, but it isn't always as easy when you're going up against top competition like that. So Kampf coming in, I feel like he's a very, very similar player to Bluger. Sound defensively, good on the PK, good in the face-off dot. So hopefully he can take some of those defensive draws away from Pettersson and hopefully get some more offensive zone ice time.
All right, well, we're talking about taking heat off Elias Pettersson. Patrick Allvin met the media via Zoom. He's on the road trip, I believe, so he would have done it from Tampa earlier on Sunday morning. And one of the questions he was asked was just that, about here's a guy who has some success in the faceoff circle and has been used primarily as a defensive checker in his time in the National Hockey League, both with Chicago and then in Toronto. Here's Allvin from earlier today about David Kampf taking some of the heat off Elias Pettersson.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's what David has shown in the league, that he's a very reliable player, strong on face-off, and particularly strong on face-off on the kill there. So definitely helps with the ice time and starting in D zones, to your point, for Elias there too.
So there you go. That is why they have gone out and signed this player to a one-year deal, 1.1 prorated for the rest of this season. Allvin mentioned this morning that the Canucks had kicked tires on Kampf before, had some talks with Toronto, and then when it became apparent that he was likely to shake loose, that they made it abundantly clear that this is a player that they had some interest in. And again, I think you keep your expectations low, but when you look at what they've got down the middle, when you look at the struggles that they have had as a club all season long in the faceoff circle, I think he can help. Like, I wrote a piece at Canucks Army about desperate times, desperate measures, and I think it does sort of fall into that category, but Reichel's not cutting it as a center, and so why not at a salary that's fully variable if it gets to that? Teddy Bluger, when he comes back, there's a lot of similarity. There's a lot of duplicity, I suppose, when you look at Bluger and Kampf. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them profiles as a guy that brings you much offense. I'm not sure who I would slot ahead of the other if I'm writing out a Canucks depth chart. They're both solid bottom six guys. But Patrick Allvin talked about the fact that yes, it's faceoffs. Yes, it's some defensive responsibility, but it's more than that when it comes to Kampf. Yeah.
Don't expect much offense. Like we just talked about. His career high, he scored double-digit goals once, 26 or 27 points. But his ice time is surprisingly high, 14 minutes career average. Even in Toronto, 2 seasons where he averaged over 15 minutes. So I think that's all defensively sound, and so he will alleviate a lot, as I've already mentioned.
All right, well, let's hear from Allvin then, talking about some of the other areas that he thinks David Kampf can contribute to this hockey club.
Yes, and I think also the experience. If you're looking down the lineup, I think our young guys have taken steps and played well, but I think in the game you need an experienced guy, with him having 500-plus games, very reliable. The communication here with Adam and what Adam seen in David and the familiarity here, we felt that he will upgrade or line up, and then it's up to the coach how to use him and where to play him here.
All right, there you go, Patrick Allvin. A couple other things from this morning as well. I know you were on that Zoom too. Mm-hmm. Filip Chytil skating again. Mm-hmm. One thing for him to skate. We know, though, that it's a totally different animal for him to get medical clearance and get back in there and then absorb contact like he did in the Washington game the last time we saw him. Teddy Bluger, this one's strange. Like, he was back skating, morning skate, not that long ago, and now we're hearing week to week again, although Allvin did sort of couch that with he may practice when the Canucks get off the road here. I think he talked about Wednesday. So we'll see if Bluger is part of the group on Wednesday. And then the other question was about Thatcher Demko and this 2 to 3 week timeline that had been put out there after the Winnipeg game. Allvin, he certainly didn't agree with the 2 to 3. He just said week to week, but he stopped himself from sort of going along with the idea of 2 to 3, which makes you wonder if it may end up being longer than 2 to 3 for Thatcher Demko. I got a super chat from Domaniac, and we appreciate any and all super chats, all going to a great cause, the BC Mental Health Foundation. Not impressed, but 2 points is 2 points, and we covered that off a little bit. Jason on Facebook's asking any updates on Forbert. No, that was a name that didn't come up on the Zoom call. It really does sort of feel like out of sight, out of mind with this player. I think Dollywell reported he's been skating on his own, but he remains on long term. But he's missed enough time now that he could be activated at any point when he gets clearance. So, again, they don't practice much at home in this condensed schedule, and they've been on the road for 11 of their 20 games. So there haven't been a lot of home practices, but when they get through Monday, for all this talk of how difficult the schedule's been, and it has, the next 9 nights are an absolute walk in the park for the Canucks, given what they have faced through the first, 5 weeks of the season here. They have 2 home games in a 9-night span. So they're home to Dallas. That's not going to be easy. And then they get a few nights off, and then they're home to the Calgary Flames before they head back out on the road for another 4-game road trip that starts down in California. But if they can survive and not lose any more bodies against Florida on Monday afternoon, then you want to believe that with the schedule letting up a little bit, maybe they can get a few of those injured guys back in the mix, or at least a lot closer to rejoining the hockey club.
Yeah, it's a tall task, though, with a pissed-off Florida Panthers team that just lost to an in-state rival. And, I mean, their season hasn't been wonderful either. But, yeah, that it's going to be a well-needed, much-needed break for Vancouver. 1 game on Thursday next week against the Stars, and then Sunday. Those are after Monday. That's a pretty light schedule for them.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So for these guys that are healthy but have played every night, their bodies, I'm sure, can use the break. And the guys that aren't healthy, you hope that 1 or 2 of them can work their way back in and maybe be part of this mix by the time the Canucks go back out on the road. We talked about the Lecker-Mackey goal down in the minors. Beautiful. Off the rush, 2-on-1. Puck comes to him in the slot, and he absolutely buries it the way that he does. It was a Jonathan Lecker-Mackey goal, so that is promising and encouraging. It's a 1-1 game as we do this post-game here. The live stream, so if you're listening on a podcast later or on Monday, you'll have to check a box score to see how Abbotsford fared in Coachella Valley against the Seattle Kraken farm team. 6-2, the Canucks defeat the Tampa Lightning. Tampa swept both games from the Canucks last year, so it's a step in the right direction. That arena, whatever it's called, it's got a new name, Benchmark International, Amelie Arena for a while. It hadn't been terribly friendly to the Canucks. They had lost their last 4 trips in there, so able to turn the table and get a win. So, again, 1-1 on the road trip here as it wraps up down in South Florida in Sunrise against the Panthers on Monday afternoon. This was the 3rd time in a game in 20 games this year that the Canucks had scored a pair of power play goals. When it happens, and it hasn't happened often, but multiple power play goals in a game, they've won all 3 of them. Beat Dallas in Dallas, beat Nashville in overtime in Nashville, and here they get this win in Tampa. So all 3 times they scored multiple power play goals, they've all come on the road as well.
What did you think of the power play tonight?
I mean, at 2 for 3, it was effective. I don't know that it was the sharpest it's looked. We talked about the fact that Kiefer Sherwood was plugged in there. We weren't sure why. Now, he's spent a little bit of time in the power play, scored in Washington on the power play. He's a smart guy. He knows sort of his role there, win some battles, retrieve some pucks, whatever the case. And then, as it turns out, go to the front of the net, put your stick on the ice, and there's enough skill out there that, puck comes your way, you can redirect it. So Sherwood up to 12 goals in 20 games. Like, we haven't even talked about him. We've done 45 minutes here, and it's like, oh, yeah, Kiefer Sherwood has another goal. He's got 12 goals in 20 games to start this season. Just incredible stuff. And so, I think there have been examples this year where they have zipped the puck around more effectively and not scored. But the name of the game is to put the puck in the net, and they did it twice on 3 occasions. So win the special teams battle handily and win the hockey game on that front. Again, start to finish, didn't love the process here, but if we're just boiling it down to the special teams, that was an area where it was hard to argue with the way the Canucks went about their business.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to what we talked about last game when we talked about how this team does defer a lot to Hughes, and you definitely saw that. I think on the first one, the first opportunity they had. What happened to that east-west passing that we saw against the Hurricanes that saw Connor Garland pot that one in? It's just instead of trying to be creative, it's just, okay, there's no passing lane, we'll just shoot it back to Hughes. And I mean, I guess you can't really fault him because Hughes picks up two assists, so he's a pretty good guy to pass it to on the power play. But it just looked a little bit more bland than what we saw on Friday night.
Well, I think most teams in the NHL actually try to take the east-west passes away. I know the Canucks, it feels like they allow way too many of them, and maybe people are conditioned to thinking that's how penalty killing should look. I think for the most part, teams recognize that that's how power plays succeed in the National Hockey League, and they do their best to eliminate the cross-team pass. Now, you're right. The other night, they had Carolina running around, and they were able to make them pay, but this is a different team. Tampa goes about its penalty. That's another part of this, that coming into this night, Tampa had allowed 7 power play goals total. They'd actually given up 20 in Tampa. Only Buffalo in the National Hockey League, and there's a weird phrase too, only Buffalo had permitted fewer power play goals to this point in the season, but the Canucks strike twice against a Tampa team that hasn't given up a lot. Brad Marchand did score Florida's lone goal on the power play, so maybe the injuries, no Victor Hedman, that he'd be out there and logging a ton of minutes, no McDonough, Anthony Cirelli. Like, Tampa was missing some key guys.
Yeah.
And the Canucks don't have to feel sorry for them, but it is worth pointing out that the injury list on both sides here was a long one. Whatever the case, sometimes you got to improvise on the power play and take what the other team is giving you. And, it shows when Petey makes a move up top, all of a sudden that pulls guys out of position. You saw that the defenders sort of retreated from the front of the net. I think they thought that Petey was going to attack, and he was able to slide the puck inside. And there's Jake DeBrusk, who... guy's got a knack. 7 goals now in the season, 6 of them coming on the power play. And I think I saw somewhere that since the start of last year, since Jake DeBrusk joined the Canucks, only Leon Draisaitl has more power play goals in the National Hockey League than Jake DeBrusk. That's certainly a stat that stands out as well. Look, lots of nights, and there's still 62 games to go. I'm sure there'll be nights where we're pulling our hair out and banging the desk about the power play. Even if it didn't look great, 2 for 3 looks pretty damn good on the stat sheet. So I think we'll give them a more than a passing grade when it comes to converting with the man advantage.
Well, you saw, I think it was the first one where Tampa had a lot of high pressure and a lot of pressure on the puck carrier when they were on the half wall, and that just completely minimized everything for Vancouver. But then Petey pulled off that move where he dekes out Gord. Yep. And then they obviously get the goal from Jake, and the rest of the game, I think they were playing a little bit more passive on the penalty kill. So, it worked out for them to start, and then once they got burned, they kind of backed off a little bit.
And another primary assist for Brock Besser, the playmaker, on the Sherwood goal. We've seen that a bunch of times here recently, that Brock is finding ways to, he scored. He's got 8 goals. There's nothing wrong with that total, but he's also found ways to contribute as a playmaker. All right, Mackenzie MacEachern, a good story for the Vancouver Canucks. They've gone deep here in their Abbotsford roster, and we talked about the fact that MacEachern didn't really do a whole lot to set himself apart in training camp, but the one thing he had in the back pocket that a lot of guys don't is NHL experience, Stanley Cup playoff experience as well. He played for Carolina in the playoffs a couple of years ago. So bided his time. Canucks have all these injuries. He gets called up, and he's found a way. He has found a way. It hasn't been spectacular, but again, we talked about it the other night. Doesn't look out of place, and here finishes with a goal and an assist. So Mackenzie MacEachern, after the hockey game, talking to Canucks reporter Olivia McDonald.
Well, it says that you got your first and your second goal of the season, but take us through the ones tonight that you saw. Was that Carlson? Was that you on the first one? What'd you see?
I kind of got the puck back there, like a little back check, and I saw Carly was there net front, just kind of chucked it there. And knowing how he is as a player, he's a great net front player, so I thought I'd just chuck it there. And I haven't seen it, but my guess is he probably got a tip on it because he seems like he gets a stick on everything.
What did you see from the team tonight, especially in just that third period, to come back and win this one 6-2?
I think it speaks volumes, the character in the room. We didn't like how we really played in Carolina, and we didn't have a great start to the game today. And the older guys and Foote kind of gave us a message after the first that it's time to step up and see who we really are, and I think we kind of answered the bell there, which is good to see.
Settling in with this group, it seems like you're now finding your rhythm. What has it just been like with this team?
It's been fun. A lot of good guys, a lot of great guys. Obviously, I was unfamiliar here, and you're at training camp for such a short time, so it's hard to make relationships. But it's been fun. They welcome me with open arms, and I know Sass from home, which has kind of helped a lot. He's kind of integrated me into the group, which has helped a lot.
What's the mentality of the room when you sense you've got a team on tilt like that, like you had in the third period? Is it just continue to get pucks on the net, just making things happen?
Yeah, there's a lot of motion, obviously, so you have to kind of reinforce that we got to play the right way. The right way got us to that situation, so we kind of have to keep doing that. Like you said, put pucks behind them and keep putting them on the net, because that was kind of the recipe there to kind of get a goal there in the third.
All right, there you go. Mackenzie MacEachern ends up with a goal and an assist. That one that he was asked about was credited to Linus Karlsson, because apparently Linus Karlsson gets his stick on everything. Some high praise from his line mate there. But fascinating, the one answer about Adam Foote and the veteran said, like, time to show up. And sure enough, they did. So it does sound like a night where something had to be said, and ultimately some action was taken.
Step up and show us who you really are, I think is what he said. Well, that's a good message. I mean, they're not as bad as their first period showed, for sure. But it was good that they came out like that. Mackenzie MacEachern, he's up to 4 points in 5 games.
I know. Like, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
Again, for a guy that really didn't show that well. Like, remember they kept Joe LeBate around in the preseason, put him on waivers, but kept him here, and he played even after he had been put on waivers. LeBate's come up, he played the one game, and here's Mackenzie MacEachern, who all of a sudden looks like a staple in this lineup, but his habits are good. He doesn't look out of place, and with a bottom line, my goodness. So good on him, and again, it's going to be an interesting next 12 hours or so when we see who the Canucks decide to move off the roster to make room for David Kampf. We're going to hear from Adam Foote here in a second. I am curious to hear from the head coach. Before we do that, though, let's get to our line of the night here, feature that we always do on Rink Wide, the Bet365 line of the night.
Sorry about Friday night, everybody. Didn't work out as I'd hoped, but we'll make it up tonight. We've got the LA Kings on the money line, plus 115. A $10 bet would win you $21.50. Kings are just great on the road this season. They're 9-1-2 compared to their home record of 1-4-2, and that's even stems from last year. They were just unbelievable on the road. They're coming into this game against the Caps, winners of 4 straight, where the Caps are losers of 2. So I like that one to hopefully make your money back after what I did to you on Friday night. But
we'll give you a second chance here.
Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary. Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use code NATION to get you started. A reminder, you must be 19 years or older. Please play responsibly.
And we'll be monitoring that one because the Kings and the Capitals will be going the same time as the Canucks and the Florida Panthers. Stop 3 on this road trip, 4 p.m. on Monday afternoon from Amerant Bank Arena down in Sunrise, Florida. We'll talk more about the Panthers here as we wrap things up, but I am curious to hear from Adam Foote. We joked that he was probably going to use the word resilient. I haven't heard this yet, so we'll listen along with you. Here is the Canucks head coach after an improbable 6-2 victory in Tampa.
I mean, what a comeback, especially just in that second half of the game. Would you see from your team, and what was kind of the biggest change?
Well, we just had a slow start. I mean, it's probably the toughest start we had. It happens. It's going to happen. It was bound to happen because we've been playing pretty good hockey, and playing against a real disciplined team that plays a hard 1-1-3 that a lot of our players haven't really seen it that well played. Do a good job. I think it frustrated us, and you have to skate when that happens. And I like the adjustment our players made, the leaders, and intermission, because we came out as a different team, and we had a couple big kills there. Dino's been working hard on the kill with some new guys. I thought Bess and DeBrusque jumped in and did a good job, which they were big kills because they could have got the 3-0. It would have been a tough one to get back from. But in lengths, we stayed steady and we were resilient, so we were able to, get back in that one.
It's maybe a bit of an obvious statement to say that it's a boost to get your captain back, but then he comes in and grabs 4 assists on the evening as well. I mean, What does that say about him?
Yeah, and again, he came back, and he's trying to find it in the first, and again, that was a crazy, like a really good system, and I like the way Huggy felt it and got into it. I think at first the first period he might have been holding on to it too long, and then he started to get moving. He started to feel it, and you saw what he did with it. He had a couple nice plays there on some goals, so it was nice to have him back for sure.
Down a goal after 2 and down a forward as well with just 7 shots on goal. How are you guys able to generate the offense in your mind?
Well, like I said, the first period we were just out of sorts, and you got to give the leadership group credit that they were able to adjust. Well, go back to the game plan, and I mean, it happens. And they had 12 shots, and we were out of it, and it was 1-0. And the good teams can come from that, where you're not going to feel good every night. There's 82 games, and we were able to hang in there and sort it out as we went, and that's a good sign.
Seemed like a theme that you guys were getting a lot of traffic to the net, and that's how you kind of cashed in.
Yeah, we were, and they're a real heavy swarm team, and we weren't forechecking properly early. And what I mean by swarm is in the corners we were getting caught, and once we started kicking it out, then it worked for us. We were able to get our offense going.
What did you see from Mackenzie MacEachern since he's been?
He's been stiff. He's a little bit older, and he's heavy on pucks, and very disciplined in the system and the structure, and it's nice to see him have some success today.
Anything on Garland?
Just a little tweak there from the fight. I think I hope it's nothing serious, but I don't know for sure yet. I think it's just a little tweak from that battle he had.
All right, so there you go. You get an update on Connor Garland. I'm not sure what that means as far as his status for Monday in the road trip finale, but some praise for Mackenzie MacEachern. And, the one thing that we talked about it extensively on the program, but for as bad as they were in the first period, and we gave flowers to Kevin Lankinen, the fact that it was just 1-0, like Tampa had to be in there banging its head against the wall thinking, how have we let these guys hang around? And even when it got to 2-0, it was only 2-0. And this is one thing that the Canucks have done well this year. They have fallen behind. They've given up the first goal way more often than they would like. And they've given up the second goal on a bunch of occasions too. But they have only trailed 3-0 in a hockey game once. And that was the Chicago game that we referenced earlier where they got to 4-0 at one point. But they're not playing themselves out of games entirely. And as Adam Foote said, those periods happen. You got to limit the damage and you got to limit the occasions that it does happen. But it just proves that, down 2-0, 4 minutes into the second period, there's a lot of hockey left. And they were able to make the necessary adjustments, got some bounces, obviously. And he pointed to those penalty kills. I thought it was interesting. He shouted out Besser and DeBrusk, and I think that's a good call. That those guys haven't done a lot of penalty killing, but the guys that haven't been getting it done. So why wouldn't you try a little bit different? And it ended up working for them tonight. Yeah,
it wasn't bad. And they, even in the preseason, I believe, or training camp, I think Foote was talking about using Besser on the penalty kill, and DeBrusk, back to his days in Boston, he played on the penalty kill too, and he wanted to. He took pride in doing so, and so it's nice to see them kind of rotate in. I mean, yes, the penalty kill has been bad, but there are, especially without Bluger and Forbort, there are a lot of new guys in there killing penalties. Like DPD didn't kill a lot of penalties last season, and now he's thrust into having to do it, and so there's obviously a learning curve with doing that, and so yeah, it was just nice that he said Kevin Dean had worked on it with them for a while, and now that it finally paid off in this one.
All right. Your streak comes to an end. Well, one streak comes to an end.
Right.
All right. You would like to, you're pumping your own tires that every time you've done a show here that
Pettersson scores.
His Pettersson has scored.
But now we have a new one, Jeff. We've got a new one.
Points.
He's got points in every game.
Yep.
So, I'm the PD whisperer. What can I say?
The team has points in every game, too.
That's true. 3-0-1 now.
There you go.
Who would have thought? It might not have looked like it was going to be a win. But
it was against the odds. So they move on to Florida. Panthers are 9-8-1, which is basically the same sort of record the Canucks have. They're below the playoff bar in the East, which is not a familiar spot for them, of course, without Sasha Barkov and without Matthew Tkachuk. So another team that's lost. Canucks have had obviously a ton of injuries, but Hughes has left the lineup, Garland, Demko now. They've had some key guys out. But this is top of the lineup stuff for Florida. So it partially explains their struggles there. Brad Marchand just continues to do what he's done his entire career. He had lone goal against Tampa yesterday, leads the team with 12 goals, 21 points. He's on a 10-game point streak. So they're going to have to be careful. And Sam Reinhart's got 10 goals, only 3 assists, but he's a goal scorer. 7 of his 10 have come on home ice. Sergei Bobrovsky has started 13 of the 18 games that the Panthers have played. Don't know what their goaltending plan is, but wouldn't shock me if Bob is right back in there. Again, they're the rested team here, and we'll see what they throw at the Canucks. Panthers lead the NHL in hits, which is interesting to me because at the end of a road trip like this one, can they wear the Canucks down? A tired team. The interesting part there, though, is that they don't have, where Kiefer Sherwood, I haven't checked after this game, but is either at or near the top of the lead individually. AJ Gurr leads the team in hits, but he's nowhere close to the league lead. But it's just sort of that cumulative effect of these guys don't mess around. They finish checks whenever possible, and they do lead the NHL in hits or may have been passed by Boston. They're 1 or 2 in the National Hockey League in hits. So just keep that in mind as you watch this thing. But we should also mention that Canucks shouldn't fear the Cats that much. They swept them last year. JT Miller had the overtime winner in Sunrise early in the season. Mm-hmm. And then the Canucks shut the Florida Panthers out on home ice in mid-December. So they had the Cats' number last year.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this year. The hits thing, how the team, they lead in hits, the team as a whole. So it's kind of worrisome. I mean, the Canucks have been pretty fragile this season, and there's not one guy that you necessarily have to worry about. Whereas for the Canucks, it's like, okay, Kiefer Sherwood's on the ice, I'm probably going to get hit. But now they roll all 4 lines, and all 4 lines will hit you. The biggest, the one you have to definitely worry about is their top line now, which was their 3rd line in the Stanley Cup playoffs, which is crazy to say.
Yep.
Now it's their 1st line, and they've just been dominant. Like Brad Marchand, who you mentioned, Anton Lundell, Luosterainen. They got some chemistry, those 3, so that'll be some worry. I am a little confused about Sam Bennett. What happened to him this year? Like, he was a dog. He won the Conn Smythe last season.
You just wonder if all the hockey maybe has caught up to a guy like that who he had the magic touch in the playoffs. So you're not expecting him to be a goal-a-game guy that it felt like he was there for a stretch. Mm-hmm. He'll be heard from if they get back to the playoffs. But, regular season Sam Bennett, people are talking about as he played his way off Team Canada for the Olympics. And certainly just based on the bottom line statistic, he got 3 goals and 2 assists or something. He's got 5 points. So
18 games.
Yeah, he has not been terribly prolific here in the regular season. In the absence of some others, you would have thought they were going to need, and maybe that's part of the story of why they are where they are beneath the playoff bar right now.
Well, you paid him $8 million, so you'd figure
you want your money's worth.
Yeah, you
start earning your keep
okay,
there.
This
Sam.
guy can step in and play 1C. He can center a line with Reinhart and Verhaeghe, but no, it's been Evan Rodriguez and Bennett's on the 3rd line. Going back to has he played himself off the roster, Team Canada, I don't know if it's necessarily that, but I just think like Macklin Celebrini and Connor Bedard are playing their ways onto the roster, which would then take
Right. I think a lot of people have said, like, Tom Wilson and Sam Bennett, do you need both of them? Mm-hmm. Do you need either of them when you've got these kids that are on fire right now? So, high stakes right now around the National Hockey League for guys that want to be part of the Olympic Games in February.
I got one hypothetical for you, Jeff.
All right, hit me before we wrap things up here.
So let's just go ahead and assume we don't know the status of Connor Garland. Let's just assume he's out next game. Kampf comes in. What are your lines? Who do you put on that top line with Kane and Petey? Because I got one out of left field.
You could go back to Besser, although it wasn't really working with Petey and Besser earlier in the season, so I'm not sure. You could obviously go to Kiefer Sherwood. That would be sort of maybe the simple solution there. Max Sasson got the promotion today. That line didn't fare well. I mean, in the first period, no line fared particularly well for the Vancouver Canucks. Arshdeep Bains has sat out 2 games here. We talked about, is he going to be on the roster? I've sort of come around to your way of thinking, though, with Mancini, just to make it easy and not have to worry about putting a guy on waivers at this point. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Drew O'Connor has earn some extra ice time as we go? Or is it Linus Karlsson?
No, you haven't named him. Lucas Reichel.
Give
him a shot.
On the wing.
You don't have to put him, because you don't need him at center anymore, because you've got Kampf who can play that 4C. Yep. And, I mean, we saw early in the first couple of games, like especially in the second game, I think it was against the Oilers, he had a lot of jump. And even against the Rangers, he had a lot of jump offensively. And, that's obviously died down. But you put him with Kane and Petey, I don't know. Like,
he should be well rested. He only played 10 minutes and 50 seconds, and he hasn't played much of late. No, I mean, we talked about, I asked Patrick Galvin earlier today on that Zoom call, like, do they believe that there's more of a player there if he can get to the wing? Because clearly he's not the answer at center here.
Yeah.
You're right. It took me a while to get there, but part of that's just hadn't really thought. He kind of escapes my mind because he hasn't left much of an impression in the dozen games that he has played.
And also doing that, putting Reichel, with Kampf coming in, Petey's not going to be playing as much defensive zone starts, and he'll get more offensive zone starts, which will then shelter Reichel too. So, I mean, you got to see what you have in the player, and you haven't been able to because you've played him at center, and now he's not a center. So you put him on wing with some high offensive players. It's worth a shot.
Yeah. I have time for that one. We'll see. No morning skate for the Vancouver Canucks on the back-to-back, so it's going to be closer to game time before we know what do they do. Do they run Kevin Lankinen yet again? I hope not. He played back-to-back last weekend. You can't keep doing this to this guy. You've got 3 of 4 points so far. There's never a game to give in the National Hockey League, but if there was, this one might be it to try Yuri Patera and see what happens there. So goaltending is going to be an interesting call. David Kampf, does he debut? And then how does it all shake down as far as deployment? And again, what do they do with that roster move that's required to activate Kampf and get him in the lineup? Wild afternoon, evening of hockey down in Tampa as the Canucks score 6 unanswered goals, and they beat the Tampa Lightning by a score of 6-2. Jake Lazar helping out behind the scenes. We appreciate all of his support and work getting Rink Wide up and running. Good weekend here. It was fun to have you in. I know that we'll do this again as the season unfolds, but you will cede your chair to Irf, who comes back from his birthday weekend. And we'll see what Monday presents in the way of breaking down yet another Canucks game, and we'll be back to do this after the Canucks and the Panthers. So for Tyson, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.